Welcome, everyone, to a new edition of Odyssey House Journals, one of the most watched and listened to podcasts dealing with addiction and recovery in very honest terms. I'm your host, Randall Carlisle, my co-host, Nicole Slack. Hello, Nicole.
Hello.
Still in recovery?
Yes, I am.
You never know when you have to ask people.
Good point.
I'm
Yeah.
still in recovery as well. And our guest today is Sal, who is in recovery. Still in recovery?
Yes, sir.
That's good to hear. Thank you for showing up. You volunteered to do this. Why did you volunteer? Because a lot of people say we're sort of, preying on people's negative stories and stuff like that. Why would you volunteer to be here?
Well, maybe I could help somebody that is going through this or has went through the same, lifestyle that I went through, an addiction.
That's I hear that from a lot of people, and a lot of people who go through a treatment program end up working in a treatment program because you want to give back.
Yes.
And is that because addiction is such a selfish disease that you've taken from a lot of people, or why is that?
Well, it's because, I don't know, I just feel like, my story can help someone that has been through the similar circumstances that I've been through.
And probably everyone's story applies to at least someone who's watching and listening, wouldn't you think?
Or a piece of it.
Yeah.
Right? Maybe not identical, but.
Exactly. You and I are recovering alcoholics. Sal, you are?
Alcoholic, meth user, yeah.
So
mainly alcohol.
Really?
Yes.
Tell us how it all started, like at what age?
Started when I was probably, I would say, I think when I recall drinking for the first time, I was 8 or 9 years old. Yeah.
That is very young. How would you drink at 8 or 9?
Well, I just seen a clear glass of a base. It was like a base looking thing, and I just was curious about it, and I just drank it, and it made me feel really good. And I just ended up drinking the whole thing, not the same day, but throughout periodically as time went by, I drank the whole thing. I recall filling it back up with water so that way I wouldn't get in trouble because it was gone.
I did that with my parents' booze bottles.
Yeah.
I'd sneak some out, put some water in. I always wondered if they were having a party and serving drinks to people, if people were thinking, boy, this drink is rather weak, it's watered down.
Yeah.
So how long did the addiction to alcohol continue?
So it then after that, it just felt, I just remember feeling really good. And after that, I didn't drink for a while until when I moved to Arizona, I was 13 years old or 12 years old. And I continued, or me and my friends started, we drank my friend's bottle, his parents' bottle.
And I can relate to what you said, because I remember the first time I drank at 13 or 14, and it was a situation of fun and feeling good. Mm-hmm. Does alcoholism or addiction run in your family?
Yes, it does. Yeah.
Did you know that at the time?
No, I didn't know. I didn't know that I had something within me that was that could have that much control over me.
I knew it, but it was sort of like, well, that's not going to happen to me.
Yeah.
So when you said control over you, how badly did it control you?
Well, it controlled me to the point where I ended up leaving my house. I ended up running away from home, and I just drinking with my friends in the streets in Phoenix.
So you were homeless or couch
I was homeless
surfing or what?
I was couch surfing for about a month. Yeah.
And so how long did that go? I don't know how old you are. You look like you're at least 21.
Oh, thank you. No, no, I'm 36. But yeah, it continued for a while until my dad he got really worried and sent me back out here to Utah to live with my other family members because he didn't want me to be in the streets. Yeah.
What was life like living on the streets and couch surfing as a teenager or a young adult?
Well, it was hard. It was hard to. It was hard because I knew within myself that I was just lost, but I just kept drinking because it just took away those feelings and thoughts of loneliness and lost. So I just kept doing it and doing it. I really didn't have any reason to stop because I just felt lost.
So you didn't feel good about it when you were.
No.
Okay. And Nicole, you said the same things, right? That it made you feel good, but you didn't feel good about it, right?
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't to feel good, it was to feel nothing.
Yeah.
Because then if I was drunk, then I wasn't thinking about all the mistakes I was making.
Right.
Because I was drunk.
Right.
So.
And I don't know about you guys, but every day I would wake up in the morning and say, I am not going to do this anymore. And then I did.
All the time.
Yeah. Yeah. Same here.
How did you finance getting alcohol if you were out on the street? Did you have a job?
No. That's when I would break the law. I would go and do beer runs or steal from people or homes, cars, and whatever merchandise we got out of, we would purchase drugs or alcohol with it. That's how I would.
Now, somebody watching this would say, well, that guy deserves to go to jail. And why would you think that it's okay to steal just to support your drinking?
Well, I didn't care at the time. I didn't think that way. My mind was, I was so influenced by other kids that were thinking the same way that I did growing up. I was highly influenced by bad influences, and that was actually the thing to do, was to take and and it wasn't in my mind, it wasn't looked as a bad thing. It was looked as like, that's what you have to do, and yeah, in my mind it was actually cool,
But deep down inside, didn't you know it was the wrong thing to do?
I did, and it did affect me, but I would keep drinking and keep getting high. As a matter of fact, in order for me to keep doing the things that I was doing, I continued to drink and get high, so that way I wouldn't feel that guilt and shame within inside me.
Huh. So when did you first of all, did you get caught and do any jail and criminal stuff?
Oh yeah, I've been in and out of prison since I've been 14 years old. Yeah.
And what lessons did you take? I mean, when you were behind bars, you couldn't drink, could you?
No.
Okay.
Well, you can, but I wasn't drinking in there.
And what did you take away from that? I mean, what were you thinking while you were behind bars? I'm not going to do this again, or what?
Yeah, I would at the time, but the thing with me was I wouldn't take much from it. Actually, I learned to be more. My criminal mentality actually got worse. I met people in there, and the influence wasn't the best in there either. So I think that my use has gotten worse throughout the influences in my life. So being in jail or prison actually intensified that desire to get high. Or I met new people that I could get high with or drink with.
When you got out?
When I got out. Prison, it wasn't like, it was a punishment, but it wasn't something that I learned to not do anymore.
They like to, the people who run jails and prisons like to talk about rehabilitation. Mm-hmm. And was there any of that for you?
There was, but it wasn't serious. I was young.
What do you mean by that?
Well, there was a few programs. There was this program called the Hope Program in there, but it wasn't. It just wasn't a serious thing. We were just doing it just to get the time cut from, because you get a time cut from being incarcerated if you do the program. So I would just do the program to get the time cut to get out of prison earlier. But now that I look back, I see that there was no intent for me to ever stop at the time. I was young and I wasn't thinking. I still hadn't had enough.
Well, how did meth come into it then?
Meth.
Meth. Yeah, you know that thing.
Yeah, meth. Yeah, actually, meth came into it when I was about 14 years old. I was on the run in Utah, in Ogden, and my family was really worried for me, and my mom's family was worried for me, my uncle. And so my uncle picked me up, and he actually, it was my family that introduced me to meth, my uncle.
And what reaction did you have when you were introduced to meth?
I was amazed. I felt good. I felt like it was cool. Like I got the honor to be able to get high with my family member. Like that, to me, that was an honor. I grew up in that. I didn't grow up having family. I didn't know that my family was using in the first place. So just to know that I could use with a family member felt like good to me, because I could actually use with my family member now instead of having to hide and go out with my friends and get high with them.
It gave you the green light to do whatever you wanted,
what
right?
I want to do. Yeah.
Huh. So what you brought up, when you were behind bars and you had the availability of programs and everything, is you didn't really care about getting clean. And you had no desire. So you were thinking about, when I get out, I'm going to do this again, right?
Not really. I did have the intentions to stop, but I just didn't know what was going on within myself to change whatever, to change it. I was just really young. Didn't understand that there was a problem, that I had a problem within me.
Probably just doing what you know.
Yeah.
It's so much easier to do what you know than try something new.
Yeah. In my mind, I was, I didn't really. I went through a lot of trauma as when I was young, and that's how I looked and viewed life, as that's how it was, and I didn't know that there was any different. So, yeah, like you said, I just did what I knew, which was the same thing. I did have the intentions of quitting, but I just didn't know that within inside me that I needed to fix a lot of things to actually quit.
You said trauma. Was it family trauma or trauma on the street or what?
A lot. Family trauma where, I don't know if I should talk about what.
No, not specific people.
Okay.
But
just my mother died when she got murdered when I was real young, in front of me, and there was a lot of just the streets and in and out of prison, and the psychosis that I went through while being high on meth as well. That took me through a lot of trauma. Being in Supermax and Max, from prison to jail. That
you were a badass.
Yeah. I used to look at it like it was a badass, but now I look. My criminal mentality has really affected me from actually being a human and living and learning. Actually, the trauma actually stopped me from learning, and I just felt like that's the way of life. I was stuck in a vicious cycle of just getting high and going back to jail and getting high and going back to jail. That's the only thing I could see. I didn't know anything else.
Not a great way to live.
Absolutely not.
But as Nicole said, it's the way you were living. Your mother being murdered must have had an impact on you.
Yeah.
How old were you?
I was 10 years old.
Yeah. God. Good. So the question everybody asks, and the reason you're here is not to reveal all the ugly details of your life. How in the world did you get into treatment and you're succeeding now? How'd that happen?
Well, my first success of actually being able to see that I had an issue, because I didn't know that I had an issue. I thought it was something simple that I could just quit and stop. I got out of prison in 2020, I think, 2021, and I was actually, I didn't know that I was going to come to Odyssey. I got released, but they said that I was going to get released to a program, and so I didn't know that I was coming here. And I came to Odyssey, and I don't know, I just felt safe in the program for the first time. It was really cool. And I opened up to my therapist for the first time. And I started seeing that there was a different way of living. I actually wanted to live without using any substance for the first time. And it really just opened my life up. And I never felt that before. And so it was Odyssey. I came to Odyssey, and that's how it happened for the first time.
How did so you were in your 30s when you come to Odyssey. How did your therapist help you open your eyes to the fact that there was a different way of living?
Because he had come from the same background as I had. He was in and out of prison, and I don't know if he's in and out of prison, and I just seen the way he was, and I just said, well, if he could do it, I can do it. And I knew I could trust him because he understood where I came from.
What are your goals now?
So my goals now, what keeps me going, before I came to Odyssey, I had lost hope. I didn't want to redo the same thing over and over again. And my therapist asked me, well, why don't you stay? I didn't want to waste my time and be like, well, if I'm going to keep getting high, might as well just run, because that's what I keep doing. And so she said, why don't you stay and see if you could find out if there is a reason for you to stay sober. Maybe you find a reason. And I'm like, well, that's a good point. I could do that. Maybe I could try it out again. And I did. I found a reason. My goals now are to work in some type of, in this field where I know that in this field, because where I know I could help someone that has went through the same thing as I'm going through, and sorry, I got lost. Yes, where I just think it'll be, I want to work for Odyssey or any like this type of industry. Yeah.
So you got like a passion for it now?
Yeah, I do. I figure, I know that I'm gonna need some type of like NA or AA classes, so I figure why not just work here and kill two birds with one stone, just getting paid for what I love doing.
Yeah, staying connected and all the support after is like the most important piece.
Yes.
And I am also not one to well, I guess you weren't saying that, but I'm not one to go to AA or NA or any of that.
Yeah, I don't.
I love that I get to go to work and get my recovery time in.
Yeah.
It's just, yeah.
Isn't that cool that you actually get paid to come
Stay
to
sober.
work? Yeah, they pay.
Yeah.
Come to work every day, and for me, it's therapeutic because you're dealing with addiction and recovery every single day. I still go to occasional AA meetings, but not as frequently as I used to.
Yeah.
And each person has a different path, but you're reminded of it every single day when you work at a place,
Yeah, when I thought of okay, so I'm an addict now, and that means to stay sober, I have to go to meetings, and then I have to talk to people. And that just sounded exhausting to me. Whereas I get to just work and help people and do things and get my connection and everything, like it's kind of ideal.
Yeah, and that's what I've always wanted to have a job like that, like to where it doesn't feel like you got to go to work, you know, and it's like, and you're getting paid for it.
I get to go change lives every day. I think like you have to find that like something to keep you going when you're an addict. And yeah, I think working in it, I think that's why so many people do it, because you get to give back. So you fill your cup every day. So I don't know. That's what it does for me.
Yeah.
And I think you do have to stay connected somehow. There's no prescribed method like going to a bunch of meetings all the time, maybe, if that works for you, or something like working in the field or something. But if you know, we've an awful lot of people have conducted studies and followed people who don't stay connected to the recovery community once they complete treatment and have high goals, but then they tend to be more likely to relapse.
Yes.
You know.
And that's one of the things, if I could say something that could help someone with this is, I thought as soon as because I had completed Odyssey before I graduated, I thought I was cured, and I didn't think that I needed to come back or be any part of sobriety at all. And so that was my mistake. And I know that I need to, and that was what my therapist as well said. He said, you're going to need to stay connected if you're going to stay, if you want to remain sober. I didn't listen. And so I ended up relapsing again because of it. So I know that that's what I'm going to do this time.
I don't think I've ever heard the word in any treatment program or anything I've read where it says cured.
Yeah.
You know, it would be nice.
Yes.
You know, being an alcoholic, one of the things they talk about in the big book is the fact that every alcoholic it would give anything to be able to drink like a normal person, not drink to get drunk, and be able to say, okay, 1 or 2 drinks is all I want, all I need. But it's not like that for an alcoholic. You know, you brought up, I thought it was interesting, and it explains why treatment programs work the way they do, is that you have a lot of peers and a lot of professionals working with you who have gone through the same thing you've gone through. Why does that make a difference to you? In other words, if I were your therapist and I had never had any addiction issues or anything else, but I had a PhD in whatever, sociology or social work, or you run into somebody who has gone through what you've gone through, why does it make such a difference?
I think it's because you know that the person understands you. They understand where you're coming from, and they can relate. And you can, when someone understands and can relate with you, I think you can trust them. You know, to trust them. For me, it was with my therapist. I could trust them to know that if I said something, that they would know where I'm coming from, and they're able to help me. It's for me.
So how long have you been sober this time?
This time, I've been sober about 4 months.
Describe for people who don't understand addiction and getting high and all that kind of stuff, the difference in your thinking between being sober or being high.
There's a big difference. Being high, you're just thinking about getting high, and you're not. As for me, I'm a very selfish person when I'm in my addiction. I'm only thinking about staying high and getting high, and that's it. And everything and anything that's in my way, I will stop at nothing to get what I want. Versus being sober, I'm alive. I feel alive. I feel like I can enjoy a conversation. I feel like I can enjoy a meal and live in it and sit in it. And it feels good. It feels good.
It's strange how the selfishness tends to go away when you get sober.
Yes.
And what things do you notice in life? I had a real awakening when I first got sober after being a functional alcoholic for decades. What kinds of things do you mentioned conversations, and eating a meal. What other things do you recognize with sobriety in life? The beauty of life.
I recognize so many things. I don't know. I recognize I'm more where a lot of us are more alike than not, and I've always thought or think that, that I was different or everybody's different, but a lot of us are more alike than I thought. Like, we all require love. We all require connection. Like humans, we're social beings. And that's one of the things.
That was well said. How has your family responded to your sobriety?
They're proud of me. They support me when I'm sober, but when in my addiction, they don't support me. But they're very supportive right now that I'm sober. They're very proud and happy that I'm clean. Actually, they because of my incarcerations, I feel like I'm institutionalized, and they like when I'm in some sort of program because they know that I'm safe.
So how many years did you spend behind bars?
In total?
Yeah.
I don't know. Probably like 10.
10?
Yeah.
Out of your 36 years.
Yeah.
That's a good percentage.
Yeah.
You ever want to go back?
No. No. Now, as I get older, like, it's not even the same anymore. Like, when I first went to jail, it was easy. Now as I get older, it just gets harder and harder. And it really takes a toll on me.
Do you feel like this time going through Odyssey is different?
Yeah, because I'm actually doing it for myself. Yeah. So it's very important that you do Odyssey for yourself and not for others, because it eventually ends up biting you in the ass.
That's a good message for people to take away. Yeah. Thank you for sharing your story.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, and good luck. You're one of the well-liked people in the program. I've noticed that. You've noticed that as well, right?
I
Always.
Even when I get mad at you.
So
Thank you, guys.
Sal was late to a meeting, and Nasty Nicole, who was in charge of the meeting, has assigned Sal to write a paper on being late. So, and
It won't happen again.
and you haven't started the paper yet, but it's due in 3 or 4 days.
Yes.
So
It'll be done.
thanks, Sal.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks,
Yeah,
Nicole.
for sure.
And thank you for watching and listening to another edition of Odyssey House Journals.